Hey there, welcome to the program. This is Our Healthy Homes. OurHealthyHomes.com is the website to go to. This is the show where we learn the 4 pillars of a healthy home. We stutter on that. We don't stutter. We study on that topic. The 4 pillars of a healthy home, of course, are the house itself, the physical structure of the house in the correct neighborhood, built well, lovely place to come home to. Then we talk about the ecosystem in the house, study on that, the products that you use inside the house, your physical body, pillar number 3. Are you in great shape? Are you eating correctly, getting enough sleep, and taking care of yourself physically? And then your emotional and spiritual well-being. All of the 4 pillars are essential of a healthy home. And if you don't have those pillars in place, of course, the roof comes tumbling down. So this week we have I'm excited about this. We got Andrew Rowland on the show with Living Well Hospitality. And I'm interested to chat with you about your company because I had a client that we just closed on a house, and we closed on the property, and
yes.
the grandma was in a nursing facility, and we just barely got the property closed, and she passed away. And then that got me thinking. So I've been talking to a number of other people who have elderly parents in facilities, and the cost of being in a facility is astonishing.
Yeah, it really is.
On how expensive it is. So Andrew has Living Well Hospitality, livingwellcares.com, and I'm curious about what draws you into that type of a business. I mean, as I understand, you came from the hospitality, like restaurant hospitality background. Talk through that transition for us, first of all, so that the listeners can kind of get an idea of the mindset that someone would have that would start a company like this.
Yeah, I think it starts with the word hospitality for me, and that's kind of a differentiator with us being a hospitality company first and foremost. Certainly we provide home care, and we're a licensed home care provider, so that is what we do, and that's the function that's the role we fill. But we spend a heck of a lot of time on the person, and that is certainly on the client side, but also on the caregiver side. And we sometimes think of that hospitality as the lights, camera, action, glitz and glam of hotel, restaurant, things like that. But to take a step back, like hospitality of hundreds of years ago, on how do we bring an emotion, a feeling, and something into something very personal and intimate, like your own home. That takes an interesting individual or unique individual, and that's our caregivers. And it would be maybe like flip the script. You're going to come to my house, but we took that, and now how do we bring that to you in your own home? So we focus on our caregivers, just a very, very, that's where all of our focus goes, and finding those people that meet our core values of happy, helpful, compassionate, exceptional, and honest and true. And then we get them introduced to our clients, and it's our job to kind of break down some of those barriers, those apprehensions of, geez, what does this season in life look like? How do we invite somebody into our home? There's some sensitivities around that, but we work hard to lose those labels of client and caregiver real quickly. So it's first name basis, it's a friendly relationship, and it is highly relational for us. It's not a how many can we do transactional type of a business. It's highly relational in comparison to transactional when it comes to us, and we've done very well on that in finding long-term commitments from our caregivers with our clients. We move terribly slowly, but when it works very, very well. And we have the stories to prove that. Clients that have been with us for 3+ years, that it's as good as it could possibly get, certainly taking all things into consideration with declining as you age and chronic conditions and illnesses and things like that. But how we do that well is with the caregiver.
You mentioned about the home and the cost, of how many people go from the home to that assisted facility that really don't need to, right? Because I think that people just think that that's the step, that's the process, right? I'm in my home, and now I can't be in my home, or maybe I can be in my home, but us adult kids don't want to be doing the lawn work and taking care of them and doing that. So for them and a lot of people, I think they just naturally think that the next step then is that facility that has the assisted living, like, okay, you live on your own and you're in the building, and then when you're not can't do that anymore, then you go to the next level in the building.
Yep.
So I think there's that gap that people don't know about you, which is that's you, right? You're in the middle of that.
When I got into this 5 or 6 years ago, really getting into what in the world is home care all about, I was surprised by the statistic. It's an AARP statistics that 7 out of 10 American adults don't know that home care is an option. And a lot of what we do is educational, and that's
7
whatever.
out of 10.
Yeah, 7 out of 10 American adults don't know that home care is an option, and maybe we know a little bit about it, but we don't know what
that means.
Yeah,
or
and a
where
lot
to
of the
go
phone calls
or
are,
who, yeah.
Yep, it's, geez, I don't really know why I'm even calling you today, and then my question is, why don't you tell me about what the last 90 days has been like, and we can kind of understand and have them paint a picture for us of what's going on, and then now I know why you're calling me, and let's talk about how we can help, and because there isn't a lot of, this is why I'm calling you, and this is what I'm asking for. There is a kind of a steep curve when it comes to education, because a lot of these things aren't anticipated necessarily. There's a fall that starts the conversation with me. There's a diagnosis of a chronic condition that starts the conversation with somebody like me, or there's a lot of lead up to it also, where spouses or adult children are filling that role as a primary caregiver, and those needs continue to grow. And a lot of what we do is respite in some way, shape, or form, where we're coming in and supplying, or providing a little bit of supplemental care in addition to what the spouse or what that adult child is going to be. If we're there only 3 days a week for 8 hours a day, that's 24 hours out of the 168 hours in a week. We're only there a seventh of the time.
But think about it. If you have an elderly person, and they are in their house right now, little house in Richfield, Minnesota, Rambler, nice, taking care of the yard, doing their thing and all that stuff, having a little trouble, maybe managing things, and then, on Friday they move into a nursing home, or they move into assisted living or something like that.
Yep.
Well, see, that's what people, I think, or for me, I have a hard time with that, because why is it on Thursday it was okay mowing the lawn?
Sure.
Friday, I'm in this assisted living facility now, and my lawn's gone.
Because you had a heart attack.
Is it always? It isn't always that, though. I think a lot of it is a dumping ground, and a lot of it is getting rid of for children or for family. They just want to get rid of the responsibility part of it and just kind of deal with it and wash their hands of it. And so if a mom or dad or whoever is in the home, then they don't have to think about it anymore.
I want to tag back on that before you answer that, because in our real estate world, we see so many people that are, since COVID, they don't have to go back to the office. They're finally like, I'm free. I can go to Florida, I can go to Texas, and I can work. Now I have the trouble or the concern, just what you said, is that I'm not going to be here now to take care of mom and dad.
Mom and dad are in the house here, and I want to go to Florida for 3 months or a month or 2 weeks,
or move.
And I'm worried about them. So let's dump them in this incredibly expensive facility, and hope that they don't run out of money.
Yeah, that happens. I'm probably more sympathetic to it just because we see a lot of the caregiver burnout, and caregiver being family or spouses that are, they've been just working really hard at this, and everybody's doing their best. Everybody wants to remain at home. 90% of seniors want to remain at home.
Yeah.
And certainly there can come a point where it is just altogether too much. But there's also different levels of care that can be provided, starting with our basic care services. We're a non-medical provider, getting up into comprehensive care where you can get skilled nursing in the home. It's all costly in some way, shape, or form, certainly just depending on as your needs rise, so level of care comes up with that. So but wanting to remain at home, that's a big deal. There's a lot of confidence that comes with the home, and that's what I tell families and people that are calling me for the first time. And when I think about it, what do we do? What do we sell? We sell confidence, and it takes some time because it is relational. And what we don't do is just, what I don't have is a bench of people and we're just scheduling shifts. We're looking for long-term commitments and regularity and relationships to be built, trust to be built once we get our caregivers introduced to a new family.
Personal caregivers is a category of employment that we hear a lot about. When we come back, I just want to delve into that a little bit and ask you the question, what is different about your quote-unquote personal caregivers than what we would find at other companies? This is Our Healthy Homes, ourhealthyhomes.com. We'll be right back after these messages. We're talking about, I guess, emotional well-being inside the house as well as the physical body side of it inside the house as you age or as your family member ages. When we went out to break, we were talking about the category of employment, personal caregiver, and we hear that all the time. We deal with people who are buying houses and selling houses. What do you do? Oh, I'm a personal caregiver. Never quite understood what that meant. What is the difference between your company and how you think of personal caregivers and maybe a very large company and how they think of and train and look at personal caregivers?
Yeah, we start with quality. It's a quality game versus a quantity game for us, and that's very intentional on my part, just in how the business grows and scales, and that starts with our caregivers. We look for families that are interested in a longer-term relationship in addition to pairing them with caregivers that are also into that longer-term relationship.
Do you find that the people that you hire have been in like the nursing field in the past, or is there a trend of what their past jobs were?
I try to recruit. I try to recruit people that have never done this job professionally, per se.
Okay.
Considering we're a non-medical provider, everything we do is companion care. Sometimes we're hands-on with personal care, assisting with toileting and bathing. But what is the best, something that there's a kind of a common vein that runs through our caregivers, is that they've done this on a personal level in some way, shape, or form. I've cared for my husband.
Sure.
I've cared for my grandma or grandpa.
That makes
and
sense.
so they understand that hospitality, that personal approach. This is real life. This is somebody's home. This is a big deal. It's not something I take lightly to be welcomed into somebody's home and in their life. There's a lot of vulnerability involved in that. And for somebody to know what it's like to sit in a family setting versus this is my profession and that's what I'm doing, and it's not a knock against anyone that does this, that is their profession, because that's exactly how I look at them. These are people who have been with me for a long time, and we've done really well in navigating around the high turnover in this industry, which is very symptomatic of personal care and
Why
the
is
healthcare
that?
setting. Core values.
Explain that.
So all of there is our 5 core values of happiness, helpful, compassionate, exceptional, and honest and true. And happiness is not as an emotion, as a value. Helpful not as an action, but as a value. As a value, that's proactively going and seeing where they can step in and help. And do they have a natural predisposition to bring joy into someone else's day, and they find value in helping somebody else, and that's what fills them up. And so we interview specifically for that. And it's not that I'm not interested in what you know, but I'm very interested in who you are. Because we can make that personal connection if you can hold eye contact and have a good conversation through an interview versus me looking at your resume and saying you're qualified. Certainly, we need you to be qualified to do it. But there's also training specific, client specific dementia training, things that we can be hands-on training. Our care coordinator helping people understand some more of the ins and outs of the job that gets them up to the competency. Brings them up on the competency scale. But as far as core values and who we are missionally, we look for match on that, and that is what has helped us
A needle
maintain.
in the proverbial haystack.
Yeah, it takes us a long time to do that, but again, we move terribly slowly. But when it works very, very well, and we have the client stories to back that up.
Well, education. I mean, there's easy to get education, like the old saying goes. I don't know who said it, but people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And
Certainly.
So that has to come first.
Yep.
And when you care and your heart is in it, a lot can get overlooked on the other side. So I mean, you can always learn a skill.
Yeah.
We said same thing. It comes back to your background in the restaurant business. I mean, you just can't teach nice.
Yeah, and a lot of the hospitality, nothing happens on accident. I mean, it's highly intentional. It's highly relational, and we go about it in that exact way. When I call families, and we're asking the questions as far as what does quality assurance look like for us. It's are we prompt, prepared, present, and did we add value to your life? And if we're not answering that last question, certainly, then I don't know that we're in the right spot. And I can say, and not luckily, it's on purpose. We've gotten the right answer every time.
Do you have a slow season or a busy season? You know, like when there's more that...
Or movement?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, certainly there is. As you approach the holidays, in and around just after the holidays, December, January, February, the phone tends to ring a bit more, and that's because you might have been out of town for a little bit, or you're living across the country and you're in town to see mom and dad, and you're seeing maybe what we're hearing over the phone
shocked.
Isn't really adding up, or there's a lot of junk in the refrigerator here. Dad's not moving the way we thought he would, or
what happened to all those coffee cups?
the 30-minute. I know it is.
They broke them.
Things like that. Those are signs to look for with your aging parents, and I don't ever hear from the client. No one's calling me saying, "Hey, I would like some help." I'm hearing from an adult child, 45 to 65-year-old, a man or a woman who's calling me saying, I think mom and dad need some help. At this point, can we start a conversation? And then how does it work? And then we walk along that with them. There's a lot of informing that goes along with it.
Sure.
There is that learning gap that we help kind of talk through and around. And how do we start? It's good to start small. You can start as little as 4 hours a day. That's our only minimum. I don't have weekly or monthly minimums. Most families are with us 12 to 20 hours a week about, and then we'll go up from there based on how, where a physical condition goes or what a chronic condition will look like.
Do you on your website have a download or anything for anybody about those signs of things to look for? Like, here's the top 10 things to look for.
Yeah, you can see some of our social media pages. Then there's links to our website to find what we have on Facebook and Instagram, just going over the top 10 signs to look for, or other falls being such a big thing, things to be worried about as you age. We're big on healthy routines around diet, exercise, and hygiene, and that's a good place for us to step in. Just clarifying that we are a non-medical provider, so everything we do is non-medical. Our clients must be independently stand up, sit down. Now, we can certainly be there as a steady hand in and out of the shower, in and around the vehicle. If there's range of motion that's been hindered, to where sometimes it's good to just get a good hot scrub down once or twice a week. And again, as far as selling confidence to you, to make sure that mom or dad they're getting their cares. Somebody's there making sure things are getting done, so you're not showing up and
it goes back, to that whole, obviously health and wellness and nutrition thing. I always noticed a difference when, my mom's in North Dakota, right? So when she would come, she would, be here for a week or two. And in that week or two of us feeding her what we eat, portions, the good food, just cards, companionship, sun, like all of the stuff, right?
Interacting with someone that's not her age or senior.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just younger people.
There would be a difference. I would see a difference in her. Otherwise, we would go home and see her in her apartment, and it, 55 and older building, so that was fine. But what's in there? Crackers, Diet Coke.
Sure.
And I'm telling you, you just change that piece of it, and then you change that companion piece. Wow, was she a different person?
Yeah. And with dementia being so prevalent and so on the rise, and a lot of the environmental factors that lead into that.
Heavy metals is huge.
Yeah, and I'm not a doctor to talk about it, but what does diet and exercise do? What does hydration do to make sure
hydration. Oh my gosh, huge.
That's there. And yeah, it's tough to put an exact figure to what isolation is, and a good Google search will figure it all out for you. But
an iBot or something?
ChatGPT.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, sure. But there's some maybe frightening statistics as to what isolation and loneliness can do with the senior population, and there is a lot of isolation and loneliness. There's a lot of, when you lose your ability to drive, and what that does for
that's wicked.
Just for your freedom to be out and about, to have somebody that's showing up 3 days a week. Let's get in the car and just go for a drive.
Right.
Let's get out and go do some errands. Maybe you're lacking confidence yourself because you just recently suffered a fall and you're moving a little slower. To have one of our caregivers come alongside you. Let's put together a recipe for the day. We can still do things that are keeping you sharp cognitively, just even the reading, the writing, fine motor skills,
cards.
I mean, those are all the clinical things to say, but we're a friendly face that's going to show up. brighten up the day a little bit. Let's help you get out.
Get you outside, get a little sunshine.
Yeah,
on your
let's
face.
go talk to somebody. That's a good deal. Yep, and that's where that adding value comes in. That's a tough thing to. It's a tough thing to.
We got a couple seconds left of this segment. What I want to know is I want to know from a provider standpoint, and from what you see in your families as you're serving them, is it better to have someone there more frequently for a shorter duration, or have someone there for a longer duration less frequently? In other words, am I better off to have someone there 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday, or every other day or 2 days a week for 8 hours? We'll answer that when we come back from the break. Today we're in the studio with Andrew Rowland with Living Well Hospitality, livingwellcares.com, livingwellcares.com, a great website. Go check it out. And when we went out to break, I was curious about the scheduling. I just kind of want to get into the scheduling a little bit. Is it, in your experience, is it better to have someone there a couple days a week for a longer period of time, or for a shorter period of time more frequently? Which would you say is the better from your experience?
It would depend on the client and the family's
involvement,
wants and needs. Yeah, okay. And the family involvement is a big part of it as well.
Okay.
And it depends on if there's memory care involved. It depends on how long somebody can be left alone. Some clients, we assess clients on their vulnerability. Can you be left alone for 72 hours, 48 hours, 24 hours? And that kind of helps determine things. But as far as hours of the day, how many hours per day and what that looks like, that kind of depends on the goals. If we're looking for, we're caring for a husband and the wife is the primary caregiver. They're living together and they're living at home, and he took a fall and mobility is impaired. All things are well cognitively, and we're just looking for some companionship. That might be us stopping by 3 times a week for 4 hours, so the wife can still get out and go meet with the girlfriends or do lunch, or maybe somebody's even still working outside of the home, and we can stop in. Now, if it's going to be 8 hours a day, 1 or 2 days a week, to kind of still fulfill those same things but allow a greater respite, then maybe a longer shift might be something worthwhile. Now, again, we also have clients that require 24/7 care, so we are going to be there, and we'll get them wrapped up with a team that's going to be there 24/7, day and night. And we have the availability and capacity to do awake shifts, things like that, if you need greater supervision. But really, it all comes down to the needs of the client. And we talk about the family a lot, and that's where we're selling the confidence. But the care that we're providing is very client-centered, client-specific. So it's kind of a tough one to answer. But we put together care plans that are in and around all areas of that. We have clients that we're just with a single day a week, where we're coming in to make sure the beds get stripped down once a week. We do some of the heavy lifting as far as chores around the home, run some towels, make sure the dishes all get done, ask some questions, and we're just there to make notes and help share some information with family across the country.
So we're high conflict divorce real estate specialists. Now, money, anytime you bring money into the thing, families fight, right? I would have to believe that most of your families, right, like the kids that are pooling together and talking about what to do with mom or dad or whatever, would be more open to this because it's less money probably than the money that mom and dad have of going into a facility that's going to be much more money. So do you see a lot of the siblings like trying to protect their
interest?
Yeah.
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. And
that surprises me, but that's good.
You certainly know about it, and you do hear about it. It's not that it's not there.
Okay.
I would say with our families, there's people have understand they want what we have and what we have to offer. If there's a necessity there, like, oh my goodness, we got to do something here. Let's weigh out all our options and costs and put that on the table. I get that. We've had that conversation, and I'm not afraid of that conversation or to walk through that. That's okay. I certainly get it. It's real life. It just happens. But we get the commitment and the buy-in from our families that we see what you do. We want what you have to offer, and we're willing to walk into it slowly together. as well, and maybe they're not really ready to jump in full feet with 35 hours a week, 5 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's an entirely different commitment. But the fact that we're a private pay, only private pay model, and there's not a lot of support when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid for the elective non-medical services that we provide. So everything we do is private pay, or long-term care insurance is
disability.
Yeah, supportive of it, and that comes around the activities of daily living, the toileting, bathing, eating, dressing, things like that. If we can check some of the boxes on that, which almost always we are in and around something like that, then long-term care insurance will be supportive of the services that we have. But the money, again, it's for us, we can start small, and a lot of it is value. Like, $100,000 to go into a community, that seems like a ton of money, maybe, unless you have the perspective of the struggle of what it's like to stay at home, or you've had a little help at home, you made the decision to go into a facility and you're not really getting what you paid for. And now we're also concerned, how do we bring them back home?
Right.
And maybe even have to spend a little bit more, but you understand the value proposition of what one-to-one care is like for your family. And again, we can start small at, a couple days a week, a few hours a day. That's a good place for someone like us to come in and help a family that wants a little bit of extra help. Certainly there's a need there, and maybe it just comes from supervision, or it's just supporting a wife or a husband to be able to leave the house with confidence, knowing that their spouse is at home and well taken care of. And 4 hours once a week, that's a great place. That's a good deal, and a lot of value for us to add. And then we can go up from there.
I just want a playmate. No, just kidding. A card playmate. So, we find with what we deal with real estate that, and just in general, we are big believers that, kids are not, at a young age, I should, but I'm going to should somebody today. We recommend that you really get your ducks in a row with your medical directives, your will, and people think, I'm not married yet, or I don't have a lot, right, to put together a plan. It's a single person with a townhouse and whatnot, right? So I'm always amazed at how many people don't have it together yet at whatever age, even older people that don't have their paperwork. Like when I'm on, you're harping on the wife and this is something we should do. Yeah, put it off. You put it off. But then you go out to lunch with your buddy and your buddy says, hey, I really care about you guys. Did you guys do that yet? And you're like, no, we really should. I think that the closer you are to relationship, you have a harder time discussing and wanting to talk about it. So it's that third party, right? Do you guys, as that third party, right, hear a lot, or is it brought up a lot that that you're surprised at how many people don't have their paperwork together yet? Are you surprised by that, or?
I think the first question should be stay at home or not stay at home. And there's a lot of good books out there. There's a lot of easy reads out there. And if you haven't even kind of reached this conversation with mom or dad, and I suppose I'm talking to the adult children out there that are often the decision makers or influencers for mom and dad's decision at a later point in life.
But so many people that don't have their will yet and don't have, that kind of stuff yet.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking for, is there a healthcare directive? Is there a DNR put in place? I talk about power of attorney, medical power of attorney, things like that when we're doing the formalities of our paperwork, just to make sure we have all our stuff organized in line. But often there is a I don't know, and it comes with that conversation of mom and dad just took a fall. We're coming out of transitional care. We need some help at home. How in the world do we go about this? And I have some questions of, well, who are the decision makers? That's something I'm trying to make sure we just have clear lines of communication and boundaries set up. And you will ask that question, well, are you power of attorney? I don't know.
At least it starts the conversation with them.
Yeah, and I would say that's the best place to go, is just to, hey, have you thought about this? Or go seek out some resources, be it a phone call to myself or another provider out there that can help you even just understand what those resources are. What does a program look like? What does a week in the life look like when you're receiving home care, and what are some of the benefits of that? And then furthermore, what do mom and dad think about it? Because sometimes that's the biggest obstacle to overcome is, accepting, hey, geez, we need some help, and then going out and getting that help. Those are two big obstacles to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it works best when it's overcome conversationally. It also works best when it's done around the kitchen table or on the couch, where a good old conversation often happens best. And for us, I find it best that it is a family affair when there are lots of people with lots of different opinions involved, and there is always going to be that one final voice, and that's okay, and that's a good thing. But let's get those concerns, those comments, questions, concerns, apprehensions out there, and then we can kind of help walk through and navigate how do we overcome that stuff, because it is overcomable.
Just our work and our probate work, because we do a lot of probate work in real estate as well, we find that when people are removed from their home, it is disruptive, disorienting, and destructive to that individual. When they go out, they're leaving a home that they've been in for 30 years. They're very comfortable in the home. They know where everything is, and they're in a new facility. They're disoriented, and then they just kind of spiral down from there. And it's just not too long, and all of a sudden it's like, what happened to Susie? Oh yeah, well, she passed away. It's like, wow, really? Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about temporary help when we come back from break. This is our Healthy Homes temporary help as opposed to long-term help, and what kind of some of the average age brackets you see within that regard too. And I want to talk a little bit about weekends with our Healthy Homes. We'll be right back. All right, Andrew Rowland is in the studio. Living Well Hospitality is the name of his company. LivingWellCares.com is his website. Go to livingwellcares.com and check it out. If you have a parent or a sibling or a family member or your spouse that is maybe in need of looking at, or yourself, hey, that maybe you just would need someone to come in, a couple days a week, something just do a little help, do a little laundry, just make sure that you don't stink so bad, or you had a bath or whatever it is. I want to talk about temporary help if we can. Just, because you've mentioned it a few times, a result of a fall.
Sure.
And just during that healing process, I mean, they can go off to a rehab center somewhere and camp out there, expensive. Or you can come into the house too. I mean, basically, they're just sitting there and they can't move around because of whatever. Talk a little bit about that and how long those periods tend to last, if you've got any insight on that.
So just to paint a picture, so somebody falls, they go to transitional care, they put them through a program. Hey, how do we get you in and out of here in a week or two? They're going to send you home. They want to make sure you got a little bit of support in place, or at least you started the conversation. They're going to put some physical therapy, PT, OT in place to get, that are going to be sent to your home. There might be supervisory nurse visits once a week for a couple weeks, maybe 90 days. And at that point, you call up somebody like me and say, hey, this is what's going on. I don't need a lot. We just need a little. Would somebody mind maybe and it's stopping by. Can you stop by and check in on mom and dad? Dad just took a fall. Here's what we have going on. I say, great, that's perfect. Why don't we start a conversation with the family? We go and we visit, and we think, I don't want to just pay somebody here just to sit and talk to my dad.
Yeah.
That's okay. But so the wife's like, I got these things going on. We have these appointments we need to get to. I can't get to them all. Wonderful. So we're going to be here on Tuesday, Thursday from 10 to 2. And from that 10 to 2 period, the wife can go out and run all the errands that she needs to. So there's somebody there at least present in the home, and there's that security and confidence in there. We can schedule the appointments on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so we can be providing that transportation. We can be working with the PT and OT and kind of providing some moral support of, hey, let's get off. When the commercial break hits, let's stand up and stretch the legs. And no, you don't need to be eating all the chocolate and sweets and candy. Let's make sure we get breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the table. And we want to make sure those med regimens, any fluctuation in meds coming out of something critical like that can really throw a wrench in things, and people can go backwards. And that. So we've made some momentum coming out of transition. How do we keep things going in the right direction? And maybe we're there 3 days a week and you want to go back to 2 days a week to 1 day a week. And we've built a routine and a relationship around there, and we find it, because this does happen in a situation very similar, just like that, where gosh, I don't know how we did this so long without a little extra help around the house.
Right.
Wife's out of the house. We're doing some of the heavy lifting as far as the chores go.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 50% of the household help has taken a step back due to a fall or a diagnosis or something like that. So for us to pick up some of the loose ends and add a lot of the household support, some emotional support, both for our client and for the family, and yeah, that's kind of a good picture of what is a day in the life of our caregivers look like. And those 4 hours, they fly by. And sometimes it is simple as sitting doing a puzzle on the kitchen table and getting a healthy breakfast and lunch out there, providing some companionship and support before you take your nap in the afternoon and the spouse is walking in the door and all is well. We're making notes and sharing progress or concerns, things like that along the way. If it's something cognitive, if it's something physically, mobility's been impaired, that we can share with the physical therapist, share our concerns with PT/OT, be part of doctor visits and conversations in and around some of the critical things that happen, those 90 days, the first 6 months out of transitional care, to prevent you from going back into transitional care.
Your personal care providers, they get attached to these people.
Yeah.
I mean, they almost like they become surrogate kids, part of the family.
I would totally get attached.
What talk about the therapy with your caregivers, because when they're in there, probably spending more time with those family members than family members do.
Sometimes.
And something happens to the principal. The first they die, or they suddenly they just have to go into a facility. I mean, there's a sense of loss there and grieving that goes on there as well.
Certainly. For
the care providers. How do you work through that? What does that look like on the coming out the backside of that?
Yeah, it's real life. It's a conversation. It's, geez, how you doing? I'm really sorry for your loss. Those are all real things. The family certainly lost somebody, but if we've been there for the last 2.5 years, and they're a family confidant, the spouse or the children, that's there's a lot of loss there. Do
you find then that relationship then stays and maintains
sometimes
once that is gone, or are they just like, okay, who's next? Kind of like that, or you find people that when something like that happens, when the person, the primary that they're giving care to, dies or passes away, that they're just like, I can't do this anymore.
Sometimes I would say both. There's a career aspect to it, and money, where let's find additional hours and new families, and we have families that are coming our way that we can't begin right away until we have a really good caregiver to put in place, and maybe so that's the catch-22 of it, but. No, I think it takes time. Each situation is individual on its own, and those relationships, sometimes they're 6 months before, sometimes it's 2.5 or 3 years where that'll happen. Unfortunately, it's the inevitability of this industry, I suppose, or this business.
The season of their life.
Yeah.
What's the longest you've been with somebody?
3.5 years of the 5 years that we've been in business, and we still have that family today. And I hope it goes on for another 3 years, and so that would be great. Now we don't do a lot of let's move really quick and how do we put some people in place because we're coming home on Friday. That's not really the model of this. It's how do we work with families and understand what's been going on. We work together to what's that schedule going to look like. How
does that communication go with the family? With the broader family, if you have a spouse or still living in the house, that's pretty direct. But but if a person is living alone, say, and they have siblings or children around the United States somewhere, what's that dialogue look like, and how is that communication made?
Yeah, that first phone call is to me. That conversation goes with me, and then we talk amongst it, myself and our care coordinator. She's just a really good listener and a person to be kind of inserted into a conversation about things like this, hearing both from the client in addition to the concerns of the family, because sometimes what you hear is not necessarily what you see, and overcoming some of those barriers of pride of having some help come in the home on the client side. Maybe that's mom and dad's side, and you as the adult child across the country saying, no, we really need this help.
I'm thinking during the process, though. I mean, you're in the process. You've been taking care of them for, a week or a month or whatever it is. Is there any kind of reporting activity that goes on, or like a formal report off? Or
yeah. Okay. Good question. Yeah. So there is formalities to that. Just what does our assessments and reassessments look like? And that first month is probably the most hands-on, I suppose, where we're introducing new people into the homes and making sure that there's compatibility with caregivers and clients. Our care coordinator is very hands-on with that and communicating not only with the client but also the family. And we have an interesting software that allows visibility to all of our shift notes on a daily basis. It's called a family room portal. So that's kind of a nice feature that we have. So, the questions or concerns around billing and money and who's going to be there, so they can see the schedules written out days and weeks and months in advance. So we kind of how do we systematically kind of go and address some of those uncertainty areas. But we're doing 2-week assessments, 30-day reassessments, 60-day, 90-day, and then every 90 days there's a supervised revisit from our care coordinator who's in the home hands-on. And we're looking for any changes of condition, big changes in condition. Maybe there's been a recent hospitalization or a change in medication where we need to update our notes, or we're just paying attention to, is there a cognitive decline that we need to be very, very aware of, as we are assessing vulnerability of each in its individual. It's a case-by-case basis.
Final question. You, in the first segment, you talked about intentionality.
Yep.
So with that thought in mind and your caregivers in mind, and they're showing up to, Grandma Moses's house, 3 days a week or 4 days a week, describe to me the intentionality behind the planning and the scheduling, or what the activities are that they're going to do that day. When they go to the house, do they have a plan that they want to run on, or do they just kind of show up and wing it?
That's the difference between this hospitality approach to providing home care versus just the home care service, where yes, we have the care plan. We know we need to do these 5 things today, and toileting, check, bathing, check, breakfast, check. Then we're going to put them in front of the TV and we're going to hop into the room and be on our phone. That's not what we do. We can say all those things, the activities of daily living, but how do we help get you up in the morning? Open up those curtains and let some sunshine in. How are we picking out an outfit for the day? We know your likes and dislikes around your meals and diets and preferences and things like that. We brought along a puzzle that we've been talking about for the last week for you to put together, or we're picking up where we left off on that card game where we're
never-ending Monopoly game.
And it's how was your Easter, and it takes a little bit of time because that is a relationship to be developed.
Right.
But when we get to that point, because we always get to that point, there is that personal connection, and we are asking questions,
and the client knows that they're being heard, and
it's the same person. It's not somebody's new here. We got to show them where this is, or we got to show them where that is, and then that learning curve starts all over again every time.
We're out of time. Andrew Rowland, Living Well Hospitality, livingwellcares.com. This is ourhealthyhomes.com. We'll be back next week.
But when he calls me sugar, I love that man with all my might. Sugar in the morning, sugar in the afternoon. Sugar after dinner, sugar in every room. He says I'm sweet as I can be. When he calls me that name, it does things to me. I tell him, honey,